Coming up tonight, the Gamecocks own the state.
Later, Gigi Jackson and company head to the capital city.
And finally, the U.S. men's soccer team advances to the knockout stage of the FIFA World Cup.
These stories and more on Palmetto State Sports.
From the Blue Ridge Mountains and through the Midlands down to the coast, there's plenty of sports highlights and moments here in South Carolina. There's only one place where you'll catch all the action. This is Palmetto State Sports.
Welcome into Palmetto State Sports. I'm Spencer Ball.
And I'm Courtney Hollmon. Thank you for joining us tonight. Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks shocked fans once more as they took on Clemson last Saturday as part of rivalry weekend. The Gamecocks, who just came off an unexpected 63-38 win over the 5th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers, went into the Clemson game feeling good.
At the start of the game, Clemson took a 14-0 lead over the Gamecocks and were looking to set a series record with its 8th straight win over South Carolina. The Tigers were up 30-21 midway through the third quarter. That was until wide receiver Antoine Wells Jr. broke the Clemson defense for a 72-yard scoring catch.
The Gamecocks showed their strength on both offense and defense, with Spencer Rattler throwing for 360 yards and 2 touchdowns, and special teams providing some action for the Gamecocks as well. Here's what Shane Beamer had to say after the game.
I am so happy for our fans. I know how important this rivalry is, and I spoke at Gamecock clubs in Greenville, Spartanburg. I was in Anderson last May, and I know how important this game is to so many people in this state. I'm just so happy for our fans. I'm so happy for our seniors, our players. I mean, a total team effort. The fight in this team, I hope y'all understand, like it is special what we got in that locker room. For us to play like we did in the first quarter, nobody flinched, and we were a confident team coming in here today, and we got better as the day went.
The win against Clemson and Tennessee put South Carolina back in the ranks at number 19, the highest rank in program history. The win over Clemson also made South Carolina the winner of the Palmetto Bowl and makes them bowl eligible for the second year in a row. The Gamecocks will now wait for their bowl destination.
Dawn Staley and the Lady Gamecocks were back in action at the Colonial Life Arena last night as they took on the number 15 UCLA Bruins. The meeting between the two teams is the third time this season South Carolina has faced a ranked team and the first time at home.
The game proved to be a challenge for the Gamecocks as the Bruins made it difficult for South Carolina to score inside, causing the team to trail at halftime with a score of 31-27. The second half proved to be more promising for the Gamecocks, with transfer guard Kiara Fletcher scoring 8 points in a row during the third quarter and finishing with a 12-point and 10-rebound double-double.
Other standout players for the Gamecocks included Zaya Cook, Camila Cardoso, and Aaliyah Boston, who was questionable for this game after suffering an ankle injury and put in a boot against Hampton. The Gamecocks pulled out a win against the Bruins with a final score of 73-64. The Gamecocks will stay at home to face Memphis on Saturday, with tip-off beginning at 3 p.m.
Since their loss to the Gamecocks at Colonial Life Arena, Clemson's men's basketball team has won 5 of their last 6 matches, including a double overtime win over Penn State last night. The Tigers captured the victory behind a strong 24 points and 9 rebounds from Hunter Tyson.
They were able to finally pull away from Penn State in the second overtime period and won the game with a final score of 101-94. They begin conference play this Friday as they will host the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest.
After a bad showing in the Charleston Classic, Gamecocks men's basketball is back on the right foot after a victory against USC Upstate. The Gamecocks won by a score of 68-53, and they were led in scoring by star freshman Gigi Jackson. He had 22 points and 6 boards and powered the Gamecocks to a 40-point second half, which gave them the lead and the victory.
Despite the injuries they have suffered early on in their season, Gigi Jackson is proving to be one of the best freshmen in the country, and the Gamecocks look to keep winning games behind his spectacular play. They are back in action tonight as they travel to George Washington at 9 p.m.
I'm really interested to see how they do. They're taking a little trip to D.C., played George Washington and then Georgetown. 2 tough games, but I think the Gamecocks will take at least one up.
I'm really excited for basketball season, period. I feel like our men's team is really showing what they can do. Coming up, SGTV News 4 sports reporter Connor Fisher will give us a glimpse of the sports world outside the Palmetto State.
Welcome back, Gamecock fans. Sports doesn't just happen here in the Palmetto State. Here's what's going on around the country and the world. Over the first 4 weeks of the college basketball season, we've seen plenty of familiar faces in the men's college basketball top 25. The SEC fields 5 squads in the most recent rankings: Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Auburn, and Kentucky in that order. However, the chaos of early season basketball has also caused several blue blood squads to drop in the rankings. North Carolina has the biggest fall by far, tumbling from number 1 in the nation after back-to-back losses to Iowa State and Alabama last week. In an early candidate for Game of the Year, the Crimson Tide took UNC to 4 overtimes before finally emerging victorious 103-101. The losses pushed the Tar Heels down to number 18, sandwiched between rival Duke at 17 and fellow Blue Blood Kentucky at 19. All 3 teams have struggled so far with 2 losses each. In UNC's place, there's a new number 1 squad, the University of Houston Cougars. Houston is 7-0 so far this year, but have yet to play a ranked opponent. After Houston, the Texas Longhorns, Virginia Cavaliers, and Arizona Wildcats rank out the top 4 in that order. Moving on over to the gridiron. After limping to a 13-3 loss to the Ravens in Week 11, the Carolina Panthers came back with a far more effective scheme in Week 12. The Panthers took on the reeling Denver Broncos at home and ended the Thanksgiving weekend with a 23-10 win. The Panthers started Sam Darnold at quarterback against Denver, recently activated after spending the majority of the season out with an ankle injury. The former 3rd overall pick completed 11 of his 19 passes for 164 yards and a passing touchdown, plus punching in another touchdown on the ground after recovering his own fumble. Carolina running back Donta Foreman led the team with 113 rushing yards, his 4th time eclipsing the century mark on the ground over the last 6 games. When asked about his performance in the win, Darnold was humble, saying, quote, "It truly isn't about me. There's so many guys that have a hand in this. I would be silly to sit up here and take all the credit. It was truly a team effort," end quote. The defense would sack Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson 3 times, 2 of those coming from star defensive end Brian Burns. They also forced 2 fumbles and held Denver to under 150 passing yards. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking the Panthers' season is already over, even after this win, since they sit at 4-8. However, in reality, they are now just 1.5 games back of Tampa Bay for lead in the division, with 5 weeks left in the regular season. With this in mind, the Panthers will travel cross-country to the Pacific Northwest this week for an afternoon tilt with Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. That game will be on Fox. Kickoff is at 4:25 p.m. And finally tonight, a brief look onto the pitch. The FIFA World Cup is underway in the nation of Qatar, and the action has been going non-stop as we approach the end of the group stage. Yesterday, the United States defeated Iran 1-0, earning their first true win of the Cup after draws with England and Wales in their first 2 matches last week. With the victory against Iran, the U.S. have punched their ticket to the knockout stage, a relief for sure after failing to qualify back in 2018. If getting up early on a Saturday to watch some soccer is up for you, be sure to tune in at 10 a.m. to cheer on the USA as they take on the Netherlands. That's the final Pro Sports Rundown for this semester. Coming up after the break, Colleen Sholtis will bring you more Carolina sports news. One last time, I'm Connor Fisher, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. I'm Colleen Sholtis. South Carolina head football coach Shane Beamer is leading his team to a bowl game for the 2nd year in a row in just his 2nd year of head coaching, an impressive feat for a newly hired head coach. In just his first year as a head coach, Beamer ended the season with a 7-6 record after a 2-8 season under former coach Will Muschamp. Leading the Gamecocks to the Duke's Mayo Bowl last season was incredible, and Beamer is truly changing the culture around Gamecock football. This season, Coach Beamer is heading into a bowl game with an 8-4 record and impressive wins against Kentucky, Tennessee, and their most recent win against Clemson. This is the first time in program history that South Carolina has beaten 2 top 10 teams back-to-back, and they look to gain 1 more win in their bowl game, which will be announced on Sunday. And I mean, watching Coach Beamer really transform this team has been incredible to watch.
Absolutely right. It seems like they want to win for him. They'll run through a wall for Coach Beamer, and I'm really, really happy to see that.
I agree. With the transfer portal opening here soon, that also means the firing and hiring of new coaches. South Carolina offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield is leaving the Gamecocks to head to Nebraska, where he will coach under Matt Rule. The list for the new OC consists of Garrett Riley, Kendall Briles, and Zach Kitley. Riley is the current TCU offensive coordinator. TCU has had an outstanding undefeated season, and they are currently ranked 3rd in the college football playoff ranking. Ryle sits as the current OC for Arkansas, who's also had a strong season offensively. This would be a popular name for Carolina, as he's worked closely with South Carolina wide receivers coach Justin Steff. Kelly is the current offensive coordinator at Texas Tech, and as a young coach, he is one of college football rising stars. He was under consideration for the opening last year, but chose the job at Tech. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who Beamer and the whole squad picks as this new offensive coordinator.
It's very true. I definitely like Garrett Riley because of the Oklahoma connection. He coached at Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley's younger brother. So there might be something there.
Right, absolutely. Coming up after the break, what Carolina sporting events are going on this week. Stay tuned for the Palmetto State calendar.
Before we go, let's take a look at the Palmetto State calendar. Starting off with some men's basketball matchups, the Gamecocks have 2 road games in the nation's capital this week. First off, they will take on George Washington tonight at 9 p.m. on CBS Sports. On Saturday, they face the Georgetown Hoyas at noon on Fox Sports 1. Then on Sunday, they return to the Colonial Life Arena to host Presbyterian at 6 p.m. The Tigers host Wake Forest this Friday at 7 p.m., and the Chanticleers host UNCW tonight at 7:30 p.m.
Moving on to the only volleyball matchup for the week, the Tigers face Toledo at 4 p.m. on Saturday for the first round of the NIVC.
Next, we'll look at the women's basketball matchups. The Gamecocks will face Memphis at 3:30 on Saturday, followed by a 2 p.m. tip-off on Sunday versus Liberty. The Clemson Tigers will travel to Charleston tomorrow to play Charleston Southern at 6 p.m. and then to Atlanta to play Georgia State on Sunday at 2. Finally, the Chanticleers will face College of Charleston on Friday at 7 p.m. in Charleston.
Finally, we'll take a look at the football matchups for this week. On Saturday, the Clemson Tigers will play in the ACC Championship against North Carolina at 8 p.m. And the Chanticleers will face Troy in the Sun Belt Championship on Saturday at 3:30. And that's all we have for this semester of Palmetto State Sports. We'd like to give a special shout out to our very own Connor Fisher, as this will be his last episode.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at SGTV Sports, and to keep up with all of our content, be sure to also visit us online at sgtvonline.com. For SGTV News 4 Sports, I'm Courtney Hollmon.
And I'm Spencer Ball. From all of us here at SGTV, have a happy holidays, Carolina.
Forever to be.